Hi, home groups. Hope you enjoyed the preach, those of you that watched it or listened. So just to share a brief overview of what was being said on Sunday. Jesus said, Jesus helped establish us in our identity, and he used, pictures to do that. And one of them was in Matthew 5:13, he said, "You are the salt of the earth." Now again, in today, salt's like so common and so cheap that actually the impact of that statement doesn't really mean much to us. But in Jesus' day, salt was a form of currency. It was used in conjunction with gold. Roman soldiers were paid in salt, and so salt had many uses. So when Jesus says we're salt, he wants us to look and meditate on what that meant to him. What was he trying to put across to us? And of course, the biggest thing salt does is it adds flavor. So we are called to add the flavor of God. We're called to add the aroma of God into our conversations, and the Colossians 4:5 says, "Be wise in the way you act towards outsiders, so to the lost. Make the use of every opportunity. Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." In other words, the world out there is looking for answers. And the answer is the gospel of grace. That's how we are salt to the world. And salt is a preservative. It also stops decay. And we can see there's just moral decay, social decay. But we are called to be instruments of saltiness for God. In fact, he calls us ambassadors of Christ. So we know that we have a calling on our lives. We're not just saved to be saved. We're saved for a purpose of doing God's will. Of your kingdom come, Lord, on earth as in heaven. So we are called to be instruments of God's will, God's grace, God's love, and that is to be salty. So what I want to look at today, I just want to ask you to consider, what does it mean to be salty? And you can hear from the sermon, again, it brings flavor. It was a form of preservative. But one of the biggest things salt was used for was to purify, to bring purity. And the world out there is getting very impure, some very strange stuff going on. So we need to be bringing God's purity, God's holiness, God's righteousness. But also, one of the big things it was used for was a catalyst. In other words, it brought about a reaction. It brought about change. So we are called to be activators. We are called to bring about change. We're not called to be passive. A catalyst is not passive. A catalyst brings about a reaction. And so we are called to bring about reactions. And how we do that is we share the gospel, which means good news of Jesus, and we provoke a reaction. So what I want you to consider today, what would it mean, or what does it mean when Jesus, for you personally, if he says, you are the salt of the earth? So the question is probably a lot of you young people are on social media. My question to you is, are you actually being salty, or are you influencing the world out there, or is the world influencing you? Is consumerism and this consumer creep, this culture creep coming into your life, where you're taking on the values of the world instead of proclaiming Jesus' values? So I want you to ask yourself that question. Am I influencing social media, or am I being influenced by social media? Because the fact of the matter is, you are called to be salt and light, not the other way around. Secondly, the question I want you to ask yourself is, can you be salty by sharing Jesus? Do you know how to share your testimony with somebody? Do you know how to share the gospel quickly with somebody? And do you have the confidence to do it? And if not, I encourage you to get some prayer for that. One of the ways we are salty is we are called to be spirit-filled. We're called to live life listening to the Holy Spirit and obeying what the Holy Spirit says. And again, that means we go into situations with our friends and we speak in the Spirit of God. We don't speak in the spirit of the world. We speak differently. We are Spirit-filled, Holy Spirit-filled people, and we're called to make a difference, and we're called to bring the flavor and the aroma and the presence of God into situations. So my question to you is, are you Spirit-filled? Are you able to share the gospel? If not, there's ways of learning how to do that. And who is God calling you personally to share with? So again, today, ask yourself, Lord, the way we live life in the Spirit is we say, Holy Spirit, show me someone that I need to share the gospel with. And the Holy Spirit straight away will bring 2 or 3 people to your mind. And you need to be salt to them. You need to go and share the gospel with them, ask the Lord for wisdom in how to do it, and then get out there and do it. That's how the ultimate salt is to get someone saved. That's the ultimate change. And salt changes things. We're called to change and be instigators of change, prophetic catalysts of change. Then finally, what are the lies you believe about yourself that stop you from being salt? Are there some issues in your life that you feel are disqualifying you, where you find, well, it's okay for everyone else, but not me? And the good news is that God's grace is there for you. You're forgiven, you're accepted, you are righteous, you are loved, you're a child of God, you're a temple of the Holy Spirit, you are qualified. And if the devil keeps on reminding you of stuff, then you need to get that dealt with. Get some deliverance, get a sozo, get some inner heat, whatever is necessary to get that out of your life that's getting in the way. Guys, we're called to pull down the strongholds of the devil. We're called to go out there, face giants, and be courageous. That's our calling at this time. Enough of this passivity. Especially I want to say that to young people, enough of lying around, playing video games. Sorry, feel bad. Let's get out there into real life and get real people saved and see the sick healed, the demonized set free, and the lost saved. You can do it.
Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, overflow. Holy Spirit, overflow. Holy Spirit, overflow. Holy Spirit.